Okay, shall we get started, shall we? So, hello and welcome to the first webinar in the MeMAD webinar series, this first one called Making Content Available for All, an Accessibility Perspective. And today we'll be talking about the use of technology in facilitating accessibility and in production of accessible content, particularly from the point of view of the results of the MeMAD project. And some practical notes to start this off with. So this event is closed captioned, and you can turn it on in the Zoom client by pushing the CC button at the bottom of the toolbar in Zoom. We'll be recording this event and make it available for later viewing, and it will then also be subtitled. And we will devote the final part of this webinar to your questions and comments. And if you then like to participate in the conversation, you could do so either through the chat function or alternative by requesting to speak using the hand raising function and wait to be called on by your moderator, me, that is. A few words about the program still. So first of all, my name is Mikael Stornbom, and I work as a business director in Linksoft, one of the companies involved in the MeMAD project, and I primarily work with the dissemination and business development activities in the MeMAD project. And in a few minutes, you'll be hearing our keynote from Konstantin Dranch, and we're very excited about that. After that, we'll turn then to the proceeds of the MeMAD project, particularly from the point of view of subtitling and content localization. First from Professor Mikko Kurimo, who will be talking more about the technical aspects, and then from Kaisa Vitikainen of YLE, who will be talking more about the evaluation aspects. Then we will turn to more towards the future development with Jorma Laaksonen and Mikko Kurimo and myself. And we will then also have the opportunity for audience questions. And so the topic for today, as I mentioned, is accessibility, and particularly then how to use language technology to make content and information more accessible. Over the past few years, a lot has happened in this field, and there's certainly great potential for use of these technologies today. The Web Accessibility Directive, an European Union legislative directive that mandates the increased accessibility in public digital services, for example, in terms of making online video and audio more accessible, has also raised awareness of the importance of accessibility and also given it more sort of legislative force, particularly for public digital services. And that, if anything, also demonstrates the need for legislative action for accessibility. That said, the current directive is just a start. A lot more needs to be done, and a lot more could be done to make all content accessible. A key consideration, for example, not just to making content accessible at some point eventually after publication, but also in terms of immediacy. So, for example, not just in terms of, for example, emergency information, but also ensuring equal participation in the conversation. And I would say that technology developers and researchers, we can do a lot to lower the threshold for content providers, producers, and distributors to make their content accessible. And that is something I'm hoping we're contributing to in a very significant way in the MeMAD project. So a couple of words about the project. So the project is Methods for Managing Audiovisual Data, or then MeMAD for short. And it's a Horizon 2020 project funded by the European Union in a multinational consortium led by Aalto University, and also featuring the University of Helsinki of Finland, Eurecom of France, University of Surrey in the UK, YLE, the public broadcaster in Finland, the company Linecraft, and the company Linksoft, which I represent, and the Institut National de l'Audiovisual of France. And the goal of the project really is to develop automatic language-based methods for managing, accessing, and publishing pre-existing and originally produced content in an efficient and accurate manner, especially in TV broadcasting and on-demand media services. We consume audiovisual content like never before, and the amounts of such material is ever increasing. And accessibility is essential, both in terms of ensuring multimodality in content, making it perceivable through many different means, and also in terms of cross-language and multilingualism. And to fully benefit from multilingual content, we need efficient tools to make content accessible. And we're excited to present some of the results of the project here today from an accessibility standpoint. And we put particular emphasis here on subtitling, translation of subtitles, as well as audio description and multimodal and multilingual content description. And we'll come to that in a bit. But first, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, and it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Konstantin Dranch. Konstantin is a market researcher, influencer, self-described data geek, and entrepreneur specializing in language technology. He created the language technology map, which is used by industry professionals around the world, to industry conferences, as well as translation company rankings and regional market reports in the US, Germany, France, Russia, and other countries. The most recent project by Konstantin is Custom.mt, which is a specialist company that trains and implements machine translation systems in and teams. And I will now hand over to you, Konstantin.
Thank you, Michael. It's my honor and pleasure to be here. Good evening, everyone. I think we're mostly Europe, right? Say something in the chat so that at least I can hear back from you. You know, like these webinars, you speak in the computer and you're trying to guess what's happening on the other side.
I can hear you at the least.
Thank you for that. Maybe you can sometimes provide the necessary sound so that I know that.
Will do.
So I have the topic, the state of the art and beyond. And when I was given this topic, I was thinking, what would be really interesting? And I decided to go to focus maybe not on the accessibility, but more on how language technology is now productized and what I found surprising and interesting and amazing in the last year. We live in very interesting times, and here go to my presentation and start showing some stuff to you. My job is in machine translation lately, and what I've seen in the last few tests that we had with clients is that machine translation quality is approaching this threshold where sometimes it's indistinguishable from human or even better. So here on the screen, you see a comparison, blind comparison done by a group of translators who looked at a number of engines with one human translation, a reference mixed into this. And as you can see, they scored the parts of the sentences from very perfect translation, good translation, which didn't need any edits, down to translation which was not so good or even useless. And as you can see, human came only on third place in terms of this evaluation. The green part, which needed no edits, is smaller for human than for machine translation. Okay, provided it's French, it's highly structured content, but you can see that sometimes for some combinations, it's already happening. It's just the beginning. Number of languages that you have available in machine translation systems is not that big. And the biggest of them is maybe 200 languages and not at very high quality. Google has what, 110 languages. Apple, which is the most recent entrant to that race, has only 11 languages, but it's changing. This 10 languages covers maybe 80% of the world economic opportunity, but there are more than 6,000 languages out there. Will they ever be covered? This would be, I think, an interesting challenge for machine translation and NLP researchers in the future. How do you get the data for them? How do you train an engine from so little data? And then why do you do that? Just for accessibility, to help a tribe of people far away on Earth that doesn't buy Apple devices and Google software? Or is there some economic meaning behind that? Machine translation is just one piece of the puzzle in NLP and language technology. Translation memory is sunsetting, as Johan Hamel likes to say. Process automation has reached maturity, but there's so much stuff coming up. Voice recognition is already really good, but then you have synthetic voices. A few companies launched synthetic voices in the last year, and that means that some videos like YouTube can be automatically dubbed. So you take a YouTube clip in a language that a child doesn't understand, you press automated voice. Maybe it's a person who wants to hear what's going on in that clip, and the synthetic voice will deliver either the translation or the description of what's going on there. Many people have tried that before, but most of them failed, right? You don't have a big plug-in to YouTube which can generate a synthetic voice for you. Instead, you have to rely on Google's speech-to-text algorithm, which can generate automated subtitles for some languages. But then maybe the time for synthetic voices is coming this year. Maybe they'll bring greater accessibility. And what's beyond that? What can we see beyond the usual suspects like voice recognition, machine translation, synthetic voice? I'll show you some of the examples. You're all well familiar with the basic use cases for NLP, such as named entity recognition, where the algorithm can detect important names, characters, places in the text. Text mining, sentiment analysis, which works in the same way and can say if the review is positive or negative, if these words that comprise a sentence make for a positive impression, or maybe the person is unhappy. The magic comes when you combine a few of these things into a big product, because the baseline technology is there, and now the time comes for business people to take advantage of this, to make it into products that other people can use and buy. Chatbots are coming, text generation is coming. Here you have text generation to create product descriptions for a big online store with thousands of items on stock. But what I find really interesting is the class of systems which is called analytics. They take different engines. For example, this one is another project funded by Horizon 2020, and now developed by a company in Portugal called Pribram. So they take up news from all over the world in different languages. They extract these named entities. They categorize the articles based on those named entities. They group them into this cloud, and if the content is made in a different language, they machine translate. So let's say Angela Merkel flies to China and makes a statement about, I don't know, nuclear power stations. So this platform can detect those nuclear power stations, Angela Merkel, and then every journalist will write about it. Le Figaro, Al Jazeera, Russia Today, Deutsche Welle, Das Bild, whatever. So everyone will write in different languages, but the system will be able to detect all of this content, group it together based on a topic, and so the journalist who wants to know what's going on with Angela Merkel and her reception around the world, she can press on her tag on Angela Merkel and see, okay, the Arabic people are positive, the Chinese are negative because they want to keep their nuclear energy, and so on. So that makes a very powerful journalist who knows instantly what goes on. And later on, of course, the journalist can be also replaced by a text-generated algorithm. In a similar way, you can apply this ability to take up information from multiple sources, aggregate it in a dashboard for marketing. Here is a Bulgarian startup called Sensica. They do the brand analysis. Are the people happy with my brand? Is my brand competing well on social media, on newspapers against others? Maybe someone's unhappy. Can I detect a statement and react to this? So lots of language technology which goes into that platform and gives you global visibility, as long as you have the money to support that, to buy the tweets by hundreds of thousands. The same could be applied here. You see NLP platform from LexisNexis for legal text. It could be applied to patents. It could be applied to medical text. So any domain of human life where you have this text being churned out by doctors, by patent attorneys, by usual attorneys, all being sucked up in a single system, and then you have the visibility into everything what's happening in your area in the world, and you can even react to this. There's a platform which monitors infectious disease outbreaks by monitoring social media. It looks for symptoms like, oh, I have a cough in my tweet or in my Facebook post, and then it geotags those posts. And then if you have cough all around one province in China, you know that an infectious disease outbreak is possibly happening there, and you can react to this. This is all based on technology which is available. You can take the components, mash them up together as Lego blocks, and create something which changes the world. And this is what the next generation of entrepreneurs can do. Finally, the example here in finance, this platform takes the texts of firms that have to disclose information, like publicly listed companies. We have a stock emission, we have a new director, for Q4 earnings coming up. It scans the texts, right? And then it predicts the events which are happening, classifies those events, and gives them off via the API. So someone else can build a trade bot which reacts on the predictions made by the system in any way possible. Right, so pretty cool. Another company like this, AlphaSense, it even takes transcripts. So it takes speeches, it takes webinars, it takes investor calls, analyzes the things that are being said, and classifies them as events. So these analytics platforms have become really, really powerful. It is so powerful that sometimes I'm afraid of what's going on. But how do we come in? So what do we do, right? How does it affect us? It's not only 1984, it's not only the big brother that monitors around, it's also a possibility to change our lives. If you are on a business side, like me, you can build a business, you can build a new product, take existing technology, customize the models, package them in a different way, amalgamate them in such a way that it creates something useful. As a businessman, as a business person, you package it, you promote it to people. NLP and machine translation speech, it's no longer a game of scientists. It's now a game of entrepreneurs. So this is how you can create a new product and challenge the status quo on the market. If you're on the buyer side, you can become the buyer of NLP in your company. You can store the data, you can train those models, you can find how you can apply. Because if you're working in a specialist industry like, I don't know, medical or financial or real estate, whatever, no one else knows what's going on. No one else has the insight into the complexity of your company. It falls to you to be the entrepreneur, the implementer of the technology that is on the market. And finally, I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up. Let me give you a story of this person. So her name is Vivian. It's my mother-in-law, my beautiful mother-in-law. Vivian has been born in Brittany, in France, many years ago, and she spoke only Breton, the local language, which was then spoken by millions. She didn't know any French. Later on, as she went to school, she got her education in French, she got her TV in French, she got her news in French. So she learned French, and she completely forgot Breton. She doesn't speak Breton anymore, except for a few words like "cannibal," like "thank you," or some birthday wishes, not anymore. So the number of speakers of that language has diminished from millions to 200,000, and the number of dialects has dropped to 1. So Breton, it's now taught as a curiosity in some schools, but not anymore. So this can happen to thousands of other languages. If there is language technology which can render the TV, the news, the usual communication, your WhatsApp things, from French into Breton, doesn't have to happen. If you bring around this new generation of systems which can understand these niche languages, you can cater to a new group of consumers, but also protect their cultural heritage. So this is, it falls to us, to this generation, to find a way how to gain in power, in wealth, but also help the world safeguard these languages and provide accessibility for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Konstantin. Just a quick programming notes because Konstantin will have to leave us in a bit. So if you have any questions for him, now would be the time to ask them.
Michael, if there are questions, will you read out?
I will read out the questions, should there be any.
Well, I don't see anything coming up yet. So I'll stay on the back line and maybe we can invite the next presenter.
That sounds very good. So thank you very much, Konstantin, for a very insightful keynote. And we now then turn to the proceeds of the MeMAD project in the areas of subtitling and content localization, that is translation of subtitles. And we start then with the technological development aspects, and Professor Mikko Kurimo of Aalto University, who is also the project coordinator for MeMAD. Over to you, Mikko.
Hello, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay.
And just a quick programming note here. So Tina-Linn Knutela, who was originally supposed to give the presentation, unfortunately couldn't be with us today. So thank you very much, Mikko, that you could participate on very short notice.
Yep, thanks. It's great to be here. So the MeMAD project methods for managing audiovisual data is concentrated to combine human accuracy and machine efficiency. And the use cases where we apply the methods that we develop, they include accessibility also as use case 4. So there we talk about automatic subtitling and captioning and audiovisual content description. And we want to create output in multiple languages. So 2 viewpoints on accessibility in practice. So what the broadcasters and producers of audiovisual material think is that they have a huge amount of material coming every day. And manual subtitling and translation, what they do, it's becoming really expensive. So they don't have much chance to expand it because of the cost. So I think 1 hour of audiovisual or at least audio transcription will make more than 1,000 euros or even more than that. And then we have the viewers, so us, who need support to be able to participate. So they need accurate information and they need it quickly and not 2 weeks later. So somehow someone needs to combine these 2 views. So in MeMAD, what have we been able to advance during these 3 years? So we have made research in speech recognition, speaker segmentation. We have developed subtitling platforms and machine translation for subtitles. Especially for Finnish and Swedish, we have made quite considerable improvements in the quality. And we have this GitHub site where you can download our code and material. So next I will be showing some of the technical results so that you know where we are going at the moment. So first I will show some speech recognition in Finnish. So you will see a TV broadcast which is being live, or not live in this case, but which is being subtitled by automatic speech recognition. So basically it is directly showing verbatim results of the speech recognition system. And then the next video clip will have the same broadcast, but now Finnish subtitles are automatically translated into English. So now only also the English speakers can follow what is happening there. And then the third one is the fully automatized one, where the Finnish speech recognition results are automatically translated into English. So combining both speech recognition errors and machine translation errors. So now you can see yourself. I think Mikael can play the videos.
Tehtävä kuuluisi poliitikoille, ei nuorille, sanoi tässä videossa Atte Ahokas. Suomi on aiemmin ollut mukana vaatimassa EUta hiilineutraaliksi vuoteen 2050 mennessä. Toukokuussa Romanian Sibiussa Juha Sipilä jättäydyitte pois yhteisestä vetoomuksesta. Miksi Suomi toimi näin?
Olemme edelleenkin siinä ryhmässä ja Suomessa valmistauduttiin tähän puheenjohtajakauteen sillä tavalla, että 8 eduskuntapuoluetta valmisteli yhteisen paperin ja se paperi on
Yes, and now the next one with English translation for human subtitles.
Tehtävä kuuluisi poliitikoille, ei nuorille, sanoi tässä videossa Atte Ahokas. Suomi on aiemmin ollut mukana vaatimassa EUta hiilineutraaliksi vuoteen 2050 mennessä. Toukokuussa Romanian Sibiussa Juha Sipilä jättäydyitte pois yhteisestä vetoomuksesta. Miksi Suomi toimi näin?
Olemme edelleenkin siinä ryhmässä ja Suomessa valmistauduttiin tähän puheenjohtajakauteen sillä tavalla, että 8 eduskuntapuoluetta.
And now the last fully automatic one, so automatic speech recognition and automatic machine translation.
Tehtävä kuuluisi poliitikoille, ei nuorille, sanoi tässä videossa Atte Ahokas. Suomi on aiemmin ollut mukana vaatimassa EUta hiilineutraaliksi vuoteen 2050 mennessä. Toukokuussa Romanian Sibiussa Juha Sipilä jättäydyitte pois yhteisestä vetoomuksesta. Miksi Suomi toimi näin?
Olemme edelleenkin siinä ryhmässä ja Suomessa valmistauduttiin tähän puheenjohtajakauteen sillä tavalla, että 8 eduskuntapuoluetta valmisteli yhteisen paperin ja se paperi on voimassa ja sen mukaan.
Okay, thanks. So that's the technical part. So maybe next we can hear about the evaluations that we have done on this topic.
Yes, so thank you very much, Mikko. And we'll then hand over to Kaisa Vitikainen, who's a subtitler at YLE and who's been involved in the evaluations very heavily. Over to you, Kaisa.
Yes, let me see if I can. Can you see my slides now? I think you can.
Yes.
All right, so I will try to be economic with my use of time since it is limited. I will talk about the evaluation results that we got in our 3 cases where that pertain to subtitling. First is the use of automatic speech recognition in intralingual subtitling or subtitling for the deaf and the hard of hearing. And then the use of machine translation in intralingual subtitling, and then the research we did on the reception of machine translated subtitles. First, automatic speech recognition and post-editing in intralingual subtitling. What we did was we had 2 rounds of evaluations, one in the fall of 2019 and then another in the fall of 2020. And in between these 2 rounds, we did have a proof of concept period where our subtitlers or participants used this in production. In the first round of evaluations, we had 4 in-house subtitlers of Yle participating, and 3 of them continued to the next round. One of them did not have the time to spare because we were quite rushed due to the corona crisis, and there was much to do. And in these evaluations, they performed short tasks. They subtitled 3-minute clips with automatic speech recognition and automatic time coding, and post-edited them into passable subtitles. And in the first round, 3 different methods of using speech recognition. To compare them with each other, we used the MeMAD speech recognition, and we used the Google one, and then they used a re-speaking software that is used at Yle. And in the second round of evaluations, we focused on the MeMAD speech recognition. As comparison, They also subtitled some clips without the help of speech recognition, so we could compare the results. And in the first round of evaluations, half of the clips were EU election debates and half of the clips were lifestyle or cultural programs. And in the second round, we focused on the election debates since we seem to get better results from that one. And briefly, there was no clear productivity gain from using this kind of technology. However, the process of doing this was new to all the participants. The one participant who had used speech recognition before in their work actually did show some productivity gain in using this. So it may also be partly just developing a routine for it that will make you faster. But the user experience, even if there was no clear productivity gain, the user experience was on average very positive. And even though it wasn't faster for them to subtitle with the help of ASR, it felt to them that it took less effort. It was easier to do it that way. They did raise some concerns about the impact of ASR to quality, because it's very easy to miss some small mistakes that the ASR makes. But still they were enthusiastic to try it in practice, and that is why we did have the proof of concept period at that time, and also that is why we at Yle are now using this technology in our work. And when they were asked if they would use ASR in their daily work, and all of them said yes, they would in at least some of their tasks, not all of them. And here's I think I have a graph here. Yes. Two graphs, one from the proof of concept stage and one from the final test that we did afterwards. These are the translators' opinions. They filled out a form after each task that they did, and it had these pairs of adjectives, whether the post-editing was difficult or easy, unpleasant or pleasant, etc. And here you can see that in both cases, the results tend towards the positive, which is on the right side. The parts where it's more negative is that it is limiting instead of creative, and the automatic segmentation was felt to be poor in the proof of concept stage, but they were happy with the segmentation in the final evaluations. But it's the limiting / creative language, adjective pair that tends towards the negative more. But otherwise, they found it quite pleasant and easy to work with. So quite good results there. Then we used machine translation, speech recognition, and post-editing in translated subtitles. And again, we had 2 rounds of evaluations in the fall of 2019 and 2020. We had 12 subtitlers the first round. We had eight in-house subtitlers of Yle and 4 freelancers in the first round of subtitles of evaluations, and 9 in the second round, because some of them could not continue, but they were the same subtitlers in both rounds. Again, their task involved 3-minute clips with machine translation to be post-edited. And these clips were in 4 different language pairs. They were Finnish to English, English to Finnish, Finnish to Swedish, and Swedish to Finnish. So in the first round, we had 3 translators for each language pair. Again, translated short clips. On the first round of evaluations, we compared using intralingual subtitles translated with a sentence level model, and then intralingual subtitles translated with the document level model. And in the second round, we used the MeMAD machine translation and compared that with using ASR as the base instead of intralingual subtitles, and then with the Google translation. As comparison, they subtitled some clips again without the help of ASR or MT, so we could see what the difference was. And again, the genres were the same as the intralingual subtitling genre, EU election debates. And also in the first round, we had the lifestyle and cultural programs on the side, but again, we got better results from the EU election debate, so we focused on that on the second round. For some of the translators, using this machine translated template and post-editing significantly improved productivity, in one case almost by 50%, but for others it decreased productivity. So there was no clear gain to be had from this on the average. And what we noticed was that if a translator is fast, then they do not benefit much or possibly at all from using machine translation. So if they're, because we had them translated from scratch as a comparison. So if they did that task fast, then they did not get any faster in the other tasks with using machine translation. And even for those translations for whom it did improve productivity, the user experience was rather negative. They found it unpleasant and limiting and annoying and impractical. Again, these are from the feedback forms that they filled out after each tasks with the adjective pairs. When asked if they would use machine translation in their daily work, 2 of them said yes, if they could choose when and how they would use it. 3 of them said no, not with this quality that they are seeing here. And 4 of them said that possibly with some assignments, but definitely not with all of them. They were very concerned about the impact to quality, significantly more so than the intralingual subtitlers were, because they feel that it's easy to take the offered option of the machine translation, even if it's not entirely fluent. So if it's not technically wrong, but it's not idiomatic, then you might just accept it because it's not wrong, instead of stopping to think about what else it could be. And it's easy for small errors to slip past. And I think I have some graph. Yes, this is the user experience. Again, we have the negative adjective on the left and the positive one on the right. So the feedback was positive, slightly on the positive side, only in one language pair, which was Swedish to Finnish, and in everything else it tends towards the negative, and in some language pairs quite strongly into the negative, especially in the English to Finnish. Finnish 1. Right. And then a little bit about the reception of machine translated subtitles. For this one, we had some focus groups, 2 focus groups in the summer, and I think 2 focus groups in the fall. And also we had a questionnaire that was open for anyone to answer. The focus groups were English speakers living in Finland, and well, half of the focus groups were English speakers living in Finland, and for them we would show Finnish clips with English subtitles automatically translated. And then we had the second focus groups, which were Finnish speakers who did not understand Swedish well. And for them, we showed Swedish clips with automatic subtitles into Finnish. For the questionnaire, we focused on the Finnish to English case. The videos were made with automatic speech recognition, and then automatic segmentation and time coding on them, and then machine translation. So some of the videos were completely automated. And for some of the videos, we did light editing, which means we corrected punctuation errors and proper names mostly. And nothing, we didn't do any major corrections other than that. And here again, the quality was an issue for the viewers. They were not very satisfied, and they made it quite clear. They felt that the reading the subtitles took a lot of effort, so the cognitive load was high because the segmentation didn't follow the rhythm of the language. They had to spend more time watching the subtitles and didn't have much time to look at the image and follow what was happening in the image. And they very much appreciated the human effort that is put into translated subtitles normally. They could, however, understand most of the content quite well with the machine translated subtitles. And especially the English-speaking participant could think of practical uses for this technology. And there was clearly even, I would say, a demand for this kind of service, because these were English speakers living in Finland who did not speak Finnish. So they can't follow current events, but also it's not just about current events and news and like, say COVID information, but it's also about having access to the culture that they live in. So if everyone is talking about a certain Finnish TV show or something, they can't really take part in that conversation because they don't have access to that content. So there's clearly a demand for some kind of service like this. They were asked under what circumstances would they imagine watching videos on platforms such as news websites or social media with subtitles like these. So these two graphs that I'm showing you are from the questionnaire that we got quite many. I'm actually not sure how many responses we got, but it was open in the fall of 2020. And the large portion would use them anytime automatic subtitles are available. That's the 43% responded that, and then 24% said that only if they cannot find similar videos or information on the same topic in a language they understand, and 20% only if the topic is exceptionally interesting or important. And 9% said never. And the other thing they were asked was that if they could choose between automatic subtitles that were available immediately and human-made subtitles that were available a couple of days later, which would they choose? And here we see a significant preference for human-made subtitles. Still quite a large portion would choose the automatic subtitles. That's 24% in all would choose the automatic subtitles in most cases, or definitely. But then 30%, which is the largest segment, I would choose the human-made subtitles in most cases, and 26% they would definitely choose the human-made subtitles. So this is what we got out of our evaluations, and I hope I didn't overshoot my time too much. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Kaisa. And we now then turn our attention a little bit more towards what the near future may hold in terms of development of tools for accessible content. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Jorma Laaksonen at Aalto University, who functions as the vice coordinator of the MeMAD project and heads up what is called Work Package 2. And who'll be talking on different aspects of automatic multimodal content description. The floor is yours, Jorma.
Thank you and good afternoon. So yes, I'm Jorma Laaksonen. I've been leading the Work Package 2 that has concentrated on automatic multimodal content description in MeMAD. So going more towards the description of the visual world instead of the audible world that was the topic of the previous. So with automatic multimodal content description, we mean that all available clues from the visual and auditory contents of the media are used to describe the content as closely as possible to the way how humans would describe it. But of course, because we are doing those with automatic methods, then we are certain that we will not reach the human level, but only go kind of a halfway to that, even at the best. So the following diagram shows kind of the inputs that we use for the automatic multimodal content descriptions, starting here from the visual video captioning, face recognition, speaker diarization, spoken language identification, audio background recognition, and scene recognition to create the automatic multimodal content description. The first part is the visual video captioning, which typically is able to create a short sentence that tells something about the visual content of the video. It could be something like a man and a woman are standing next to each other. If we then use automatic face detection and face recognition for video, then possibly we would be able to recognize some known people like American actors from a movie genre, like Leonardo DiCaprio and others. Similarly, we can run a speaker diarization for the audio part of a movie and then always detect when one specific speaker, now identified like speaker number 1, is speaking in the program, and similarly for other speakers. In our work, we have then combined these two information sources for the face recognition and speaker diarization together. So in this hypothetical movie, we could recognize that or associate that speaker number 1 always refers to Leonardo DiCaprio and speaker number 2 to Kate Winslet, etc. so forth. And when both of these information sources then are used together, combined with the visual video caption that we already had, then instead of talking about a man and a woman, we can specify that it is now Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet who are standing next to each other. And also we are able to identify people who we are not seeing in the video, but we are hearing their voices, like Billy Jane mentioned here as a third actor of a movie. The next alternative input here is the spoken language identification that comes together with the speaker diarization, and we can learn to recognize that the speaker number 1 speaks the English language, not in the whole movie necessarily, but for each shot or each sentence spoken separately. The fifth input modality is about the audio background, and we can recognize from the audio, if it's not somebody speaking, we can recognize, for example, that there is music or even some more specific like classical music. We have used a bank of say 500 different audio backgrounds that we are able to recognize with some accuracy from the audio part. Similarly, we can recognize what is the scene or environment or context where the visual part is happening, and we could recognize, for example, that something is happening on the deck of a ship. And in this case, we are using a bank of say 400 different visual context or scenes that we can detect from the movie. So putting all these together, we could say that instead of a man and a woman standing next to each other, we could have a more complete description of the scene, saying that on the deck of a ship, Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet are standing next to each other while Billie Jean speaks in English and classical music is heard. Now, of course, we can see in some examples that we cannot reach this full level. This is an example. You don't need the audio. We can see that the system is able to start with a caption that refers to a car driving on a street. It is able to name the person who is speaking, and it's able to detect that there is music in the background. Also, it detects that this is happening in a crosswalk. So mostly everything is quite correct there. But if we look at more than one shot that is successful, we can also see that there are not so successful full shots and not so successful descriptions generated. But overall, we have made progress and we are able to recognize different things in the videos and combine them, the recognitions in descriptions that make somewhat sense. This is a case where we had identified two persons by their face, and the third person was then recognized by voice. So three persons were mentioned, even though only two were visible there. And finally, an example about a cooking scene where the system is producing captions where the actions are mentioned to some accuracy. It's easy to know that something is happening there related to making food and being in kitchen, even though the sentences themselves are not so accurate that they would be used for say as an input for blind people. Finally, I would conclude that all these inputs are prone to errors. It is very difficult to get all the parts correctly recognized simultaneously, but when we have multiple modalities, then it's very likely that at least some of them go right in any moment. These descriptions, if they would be very accurate, then of course we could speak them aloud as audio description to visual impaired. And also we would like to describe longer parts of the videos than these 3 to 10 second shots that they typically are. And also speech recognition results have not been combined in here, but from the speech recognition results we would like to identify what is the topic that people are talking about. Often it is mentioned that people are talking about something, but it would be nice to tell what is the topic that they are talking in that place. And then now I give floor to Mikko.
Thank you, Jorma. Yes, so we hand over back to Mikko Kurimo.
Yes, so I have just a few final words before we can discuss. So what could be coming in future? So somebody will ask this anyway. So one thing is live subtitling. So we have been experimenting with that as well. So this is quite nice since the speech recognition works pretty fast. So the delay is much smaller than in human live subtitling. Of course, the faster we make it, we might make slightly worse quality, but not that much. And as Jorma mentioned, this spoken language identification is something that we have also studied in the project and developed some systems on that. So basically we can detect the language spoken for each speak and turn separately, and then, for example, find the best speech recognition engine to work on that language. Of course, that is also a bit more difficult in live subtitling, as it usually takes a few seconds before you can say that what is the language. Okay, next slide. Other improvements, so speaker identification. So as Jorma told, this can be combined with face recognition to get better view on that. So this could also be possible in live subtitling to show when speakers are changing and what is the name of the speaker. Although this as well gets a little bit harder since it takes some seconds before we know that who is speaking now. Is it the same speaker or is it a new speaker? And then as mentioned by Konstantin, so this named entity recognition. So we could add some enrichment to the subtitles. For example, recognize names, places, products, and then add links to other resources. So this is very possible already now, but haven't been evaluated that much yet. So that was my view. So then I think we could start a discussion, for example, if the audience would have any questions.
Yes, we are a little bit over time, but I hope it's okay that we go over a few minutes. So if you have any questions or comments, then please write in the chat or use the raise hand feature and I will give you speaking rights. So here's a first question. Thank you so much for the very interesting presentations. Are any of the results already published? I'm especially interested in Kaisa's presentation.
So I think hasn't been yet published. So we are writing the deliverable. It will be a public deliverable, and the submission date is end of March. So as soon as it has been accepted, then we can publish the deliverable and write publications.
Yes, what Mikko said. Some of these have been, there are some articles that have been published, but they don't have, of course, the full results, but the deliverable will have more detail and the graphs and everything.
The next question, thank you. Will we have access to the recording of this session? Yes, it will be made available afterwards.
Where shall you put it, Mikael?
I will put it on the MeMAD webpage.
Okay.
It will be accessible there. Are there any other questions? And if not, we're actually just about to finish on time. So if no one wants the final word, here we have one question. So thank you so much for sharing these insights. What is the quality results for language detection?
I can say that it depends. So language detection is actually from speech, it's really hard task. So if there is no background knowledge then which language it is from the almost 7,000 languages what there are in the world, it is impossible task. But for example, if we know that it is either Finnish or English or Swedish, then it becomes much easier. But of course, it's still 100%. Like in all of these automatic methods, it's not 100%. So sometimes it makes errors. But it really depends on that how many languages there are to choose from.
Okay, and another question. Could you say a little bit more about the subtitlers who took part? Were they all working for the Finnish Broadcasting Company already? And thank you so much for the very interesting presentations. So I think that's for Kaisa.
Yes, 8 of the translators who took part were in-house translators of Yle, and 4 of them were freelancers. All of the freelancers had previously done some work for Yle, but also likely work for other clients as well.
Thank you. I think maybe we need to wrap up at this point. We're coming to a close then, and as could be seen, there's plenty that can be done with language technology to make a more accessible world. And while there is a lot that still needs to be done, at least I am very optimistic about the future. Few final words on the upcoming webinars we have in this series. So we have 2 remaining webinars. Next week's webinar will be from a sort of research community and academic perspective, and that will then be held on January 26th at 16 CET as well. And the third and final one from a more of a media producer's perspective will be held then on February 2nd at 16 CET. And for more information and sign up, you can go to memad.eu/webinars. And you can also visit our web pages in general at memad.eu. So finally, I want to thank all of our speakers today. So our keynote speaker, Konstantin Dranch, my fellow MeMAD participants, Mikko Kurimo, Kaisa Vitikainen, and Jorma Laaksonen for the great talks today, and to everyone in the MeMAD consortium. And thank you to you, the audience, for participating today. I hope the webinar was useful and informative to you, and certainly inspiring for more work and action towards an accessible world. So thank you, and have a good evening.